Brian Giles from Brian Giles MTG, and we're back with the last bit of the Lord of the Rings Commander spoilers. So we're going to get into the last of these cards. So first up is Summons of Saruman. A blue and a red and X for a sorcery says amass Orcs X, mill X cards. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell, mana value X or less from among them from without paying its mana cost. And it has flashback of a blue, a red, and 3. And exile X cards from your graveyard. That's interesting. But, you know, that there is this kind of theme of the Spellslinger red-blue is it Spellslinger deck. Next up we have Moria Scavenger. A black and a red and 1 for a 1/4 Orc Rogue with Death Touch and Haze. Tap it to discard a card and draw a card. If the discarded card was a creature card, amass Orcs 1. Okay. This guy looks for stuff. Then you have Lidless Gaze. His eye is almost upon me. I can see him with my waking eye. Black, a red, and 2 for a sorcerer that reads, exile the top card of each player's library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, and mana of any type may be spent to cast them. Flashback for a black, a red, and 2. Okay. Next up, we have Lord of the Nazgul, which is a blue, a black, and 3 for a 4/3 Wraith Noble with flying. Race you control have protection from Ring Bearers. Have you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 3/3 black Wraith creature token with Menace. And if you control 9 or more race you control have base power toughness 9 till end of turn. Yikes. This is a reason to create the Wraith deck. This is why you need all 9 Nazgul. Next up is In the Darkness Binder. A blue, black, and red, and 2 for an enchantment saga that reads chapters 1, 2, and 3. Create a 3/3 black or wraith creature token with menace, and the wing tempts you. And in chapter 4, for each opponent gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn, and the ring tempts you. Whew. That's ugly. Next up, we have the Balrog of Moria, which is a black, 2 black, a red, and 4 for an 8/8 legendary avatar demon with trample and haste. Boy, that's some value there. 8/8 for 7 and trample and haste. When the Balrog of Moria dies, you may exile it. When you do, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. It cycles for a red and 3. When you cycle the Balrog of Moria, create 2 treasure tokens. Ooh, spicy. Next up, you have Rampaging War Mammoth. A beefy 2 red and 5 for a 9/7 elephant with trample. Cycle for a red, 2, and X. When you cycle Rampaging War Mammoth, destroy up to X target artifacts. Okay. Got a secondary effect on it. Big creatures with secondary effects. That kind of works. Scoot my camera back a little. Except we have Orcish Siege Master. Orcish Siege Master is a red and 2 for a 0/5 orc soldier. Other orcs and goblins you control have trample. Whenever Orcish Siege Master attacks, it gets +X/+0. Rex is the greatest power among creatures you control. Okay. Next up we have Wake the Dragon. A black and red 4. Sorcerer reads create a 6/6 black and red dragon creature token with flying, menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, gain control of target artifact that player controls. And it flashbacks for a black and red and 6. Okay. You get a big beefy dragon. Got flying and menace. Of course, most dragons have flying. And it steals artifacts. Next up we have Monstrosity of the Lake. A blue and 4 for a 4/6 Kraken, which isn't bad. 5 mana for a 4/6 Kraken is not a bad value. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 5. If you tap all creatures opponents control, then put a stun counter on each of those creatures. And an island cycles for 2. Nice secondary effect if you need an island. Basically, something nice effect. You got the mana to tap down all your opponent's creatures, especially if they're playing weenies. It's an interesting creature. Let's put it like that. Next up, we have Subjugate the Hobbit. Subjugate the Hobbits is 2 blue and 5 for a sorcerer who gain control each non-commander creature with mana value 3 or less. I guess it's let's gain control of all your weenie creatures type theme. Okay, next up is Corsairs of Umbar. Now, this is a blue and 3 for a 3/3 human pirate. You can pay a blue and 2, target goblin, orc, or pirate can't be blocked this turn. Okay, that's... Whenever Corsairs of Umbar deals combat damage to a player, amass orcs 3. So you make it unblockable, and then you get a 3/3 orc army. And every time, you can make that orc army bigger. So that's an interesting little card. I'm interested to see, where that would go in like a pirate deck. Next up we have Cavern Horde Dragon. Now it's a beefy 2 red and 7 for a 6/6 dragon, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls. It has flying, trample, and haste. Whenever Cavern Horde Dragon deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. So, in a deck where you're making your opponent's artifact, there's one in what's that recent set with Urza where they went back in time? I can't think right now. My brain's fried. I've been trying to think of that set for days now. And what is it from 2021 when you had the, or was it? It was one of those sets back then, 2021, maybe Zendikar, where you had the goblin that made the 0/1 that damaged you every turn. I can't think of that. But yeah, make your opponent's games and you get artifacts. Create Power Stone token. Your opponent creates a Power Stone token. Your opponent creates a Power Stone token. Oh, look, you have lots of artifacts. Next up is Saruman the White Hand. It's a blue, a black, a red, and 1 for 2/5 legendary avatar wizard. If you cast a non-creature spell of Mass Orcs X, where X is that spell's mana value. So definitely a spell slinger card. Start creating big, huge orc armies. Okay, next up we have Shelob Dreadweaver. Now this is not the good Shelob. But it's a black and 3 for a 3/3 legendary spider demon. Whenever non-token creature an opponent controls dies, exile it. Pay a black and 2. Put a creature card in exile to Shelob Dreadweaver, its owner's graveyard. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on Shelob and draw a card. That's not too bad. 3 Shelob becomes a 5/5, and you get to draw a card. The other thing is you put the card into the graveyard, owner's graveyard. But it also has pay a black, a 1, and X. Put target creature card with mana value X exiled with Shelob onto the battlefield tapped under your control. Which, flavor-wise, that makes a lot of sense. This is the Shelob that Gollum came across and made a pact with. That Gollum would bring Shelob food and to make it bigger, and he would do her bidding. So that's very, very, very on point on flavor. Next up, we have Grima, Saruman's Footman. A blue, a black, and 2 for a 1/4 legendary human advisor. Grima, Saruman's Footman can't be blocked. Whenever Grima deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way onto the bottom of the library in a random order. That's falls into the Saruman deck with kind of a I'm stealing your spells and using them against you. Next up, we have Model of Unity. 3 mana for an artifact that reads: when players finish voting, you and each opponent who voted for a choice may scry 2. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Now, this is part of the whole deck that's the elf deck, which is all about voting. And And to those of you out there that play Commander Raid, that Commander deck is gonna be something that you're gonna want to have as part of how you play, because it's all about the voice of the council, the will of the council, what the party decides is best, and voting. And that's kind of how Commander Raid works. So, points up for that. Next up, we have Lothlorien Blade. 3 mana for an artifact equipment. Whenever a crypt creature attacks and deals combat damage equal to its power, target creature defending player controls. Equipped elf for 2 or equipped for 5. So, it's an elf blade for your elf ball deck. Song of Ariando. A green, a blue, and 3 for an enchantment saga that reads Chapter 1, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Chapter 2, create a treasure token and a 2/2 bird creature token with flying. Chapter 3, put a flying counter on each creature you control without flying. So, that's interesting. Next up, we have Sail into the West. A green and blue and 2 for an instant that reads, with the will of the council, starting with you, each player votes for return or embark. If a return gets more votes, each player returns up to 2 cards from the graveyard to their hand. Then you exile Sail into the West. Embark gets more votes, or the vote is tied. Each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. Okay. Again, another card for Commander Raid. Okay. Next up, we have Mirkwood Trapper, a green and blue and 1 for a 1/4 elf scout. Whenever a player attacks you, target attacking creature gets -2, -0 till end of turn. Whenever a player attacks, if they aren't attacking you, that player chooses an attacking creature. It gets +2, +0 till end of turn. More Commander Raid cards. Next up, we have Restore of the Council. A green and blue and 1 for a 2/4 legendary elf noble. Whenever players finish voting, an opponent who voted for a choice you voted for creates a treasure token. You scry X, where X is the number of opponents who voted for a choice you didn't vote for, and draw a card. So that's an interesting card. Next up, we have Elrond of the White Council. A green, a blue, and 3 for a 3/3 legendary elf noble. With Secret Council, Elrond of the White Council enters the battlefield. Each player secretly votes for fellowship or aid. Then those votes are revealed. For each fellowship vote, the voter chooses a creature they control. You gain control of each creature chosen this way. This creature can attack its owner. Then for each aid vote, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That is even more Commander Raid stuff. I mean, then we have Cyrodiil the Shipwright. A green and blue and 3 for a 3/4 legendary elf noble with vigilance. It has Secret Council. When Cyrodiil the Shipwright enters the battlefield or attack, each player secretly votes for a player. Those votes are revealed. Each player draws a card for each vote they receive. Each player who receives no votes may put a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield. Again, more stuff for Commander Raid. Next up, we have Wind Swift Slice. A green and 2 for an instant that reads. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control. Create a number of 1/1 green elf creature tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt this way. Ew, elf ball stuff. Next up, we have Travel Through Karatress. A green and 5 for a sorcery that has Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player votes for Red Horn Pass or Mines of Moria.